Think about it. You're just a fake parent.
I was speechless. Why did I have to be subjected to such harsh words? John, my husband Mike's son, recently got into a prestigious medical school. I had decided to cover his entrance fee and had just been to the bank. When I got back, I showed them the suit I prepared for the ceremony, and that's when it happened. Their reaction was cold. Mike frowned, and John looked visibly upset. I couldn't understand why. Being called fake left me feeling deeply wounded.
Yeah, you fake parent. Don't come to the ceremony.
Overwhelmed with disappointment, I couldn't respond. Who would have thought that the family I decided to love could turn on me so easily? It was more than just sad. After that, every day seemed to lose its color. On the day of the ceremony, I didn't go and left the suit in my room. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was Mike.
Hey, what's this all about, you liar?
He yelled furiously, like a man on fire. The truth, unknown even to myself, was soon to be revealed by the person next to me. My name is Sarah Thompson, and I'm a 51-year-old single woman. All my friends are married, and some of them even have kids who are adults now. Lately, I've been having Morty parties with friends who have finished raising their kids and now enjoy their free time. Listening to their stories, I find some endearing and others seem quite challenging. But everyone doesn't seem much different. I mutter to myself on the way home from these tea gatherings. I wonder how I would be spending my time if I had a husband and children. Would I be reflecting on the tough and happy times of raising children like my friends? Yet I'm not overly troubled by not being married. What I often think about are my deceased parents. My father had been ill since he was young. Even in pain from his treatments, he always smiled kindly, like the sun. He continued his hobby of reading even when bedridden, and sometimes recommended books to me. I lost him around when I was 30 and cried with my mother. After his death, I became listless and shocked for a while. It seems the same happened to my mother. After losing him, she suddenly became very forgetful, and our house became a mess. Although she used to be tidy, something was wrong. Realizing this, I convinced her to go to the hospital, where we were told she had started to develop dementia. Living alone, I immediately moved back to my childhood home to care for her. Since then, I spent my time caring for my mother and facing her dementia. She would start looking for the trash I had thrown out. Despite no one visiting, she would insist someone had come and frequently opened the front door. Eventually, she even acted sadly, claiming that a cat we never owned had died. My mother and I spent a tumultuous 20 years in a haze of confusion. Recently, I lost her too. Amid the loss, I finished her funeral and started organizing her belongings. It's not something that ends in a day or two. I proceed slowly, taking breaks as needed. I opened the window and looked up at the sky. The clear winter sky was mixed with the breeze of spring. It had been a while since I felt the flow of the seasons. Maybe I've been too tense all this time. With a sigh, I took a deep breath and stood up to make some coffee. Just then, the doorbell rang. Looking through the intercom camera, I saw a woman who lives in the apartment complex. I had inherited an old apartment complex before my parents passed away, and had been the landlord since my 30s. As a result, I am close with the residents. Everyone is friendly and kind, sharing fruits and vegetables with me when the season comes. The apartment is about a 10-minute walk from my childhood home. Her coming all this way suggested there might be some trouble. Feeling slightly anxious, I went to see that it was not the case. She had come to check on me after hearing about my mother's death. She was about the same age as my mother, and they were very close. I responded with a forced smile. "I'm fine. I knew this day would come eventually."
But, it seems like you've been a bit down lately.
"I'm really okay."
Your mother was such a big help to me.
"Yes, I know." Her eyes were swollen from crying, showing her genuine sorrow. After sharing some memories, we promised to visit the grave together. Having someone who cherished her like this would surely make my mother happy. Suddenly, I remembered something. The apartment complex needs to be demolished soon. Just before my mother passed away, I received a letter from the city office about a meeting. It explained that a city development project was decided upon, and the land where the apartment now stands is to be turned into a road. That's 5 years away. Sipping my coffee, I stared blankly at the calendar on the table. Within these 5 years, I need to arrange for the residents to relocate and find a demolition company for the apartment. I learned that the city office would cover part of the demolition costs if I applied for it. Yet, the thought of demolishing the building is quite daunting. Even though it's an old apartment from an outsider's perspective, it holds sentimental value for me. Thinking back, there were numerous challenges like frozen water pipes, clogged toilets, and noise complaints. There were issues I couldn't solve alone and manage only with the help of my parents or by consulting with professionals. Spending days looking through paint swatches for the exterior walls is a fond memory. It's a shame, but it has to be done. The residents will need time to find new places to live. I should put up a notice soon. Losing my mother and now having to let go of the apartment is very sad. To distract myself, I gulped down my coffee and started to work on the notice, putting aside the task of sorting through the belongings. The apartment residents came to visit me one after another, day by day. They come out of concern for me. Those who have known me longer often share memories of my mother, leading to long conversations. Of course, there are others who talk to me too. Recently, I've been talking a lot with Mike Scott, who moved in about a year ago. He chose this apartment for its rent, which is lower than the market rate in the area. Living with his son, he mentioned the high cost of education.
It's been tough for you, Sarah.
Well, it can't be helped. My mother must be smiling down from heaven now.
You're strong. I lost my wife a few years ago, and it was hard to recover.
Oh, really?
Yes. She had a serious illness, a complicated one.
Was she hospitalized?
She wasn't, but I took care of her at home.
It must have been tough, especially with a son to take care of.
Taking care of my wife and replacing her in cooking and attending school meetings for our son was hard.
His hearty laughter gave no hint of such difficulties. Perhaps that's part of his charm. Moreover, his stories are always interesting and bring me joy. Talking with Mike, the sadness of losing my mother and the need to demolish the apartment seemed to vanish. Gradually, I realized I was drawn to him. Even while shopping, I found myself wondering what Mike's favorite dishes were. Oh my, What am I thinking? I made a quick brushing gesture beside my face, trying to wave away unnecessary thoughts. I'm in my 50s. I need to act my age. I told myself that, trying to convince myself of the sentiment. But whenever I saw Mike, our cheerful conversations made me forget such resolutions. Before long, Mike and I became close and started talking frequently. One sunny day, Mike came to me with a serious expression. He mentioned he had something to discuss, so I decided to invite him in that day to hear what he had to say. I wondered if he had come to talk about moving out, especially since I had recently put up a notice. Sitting across from each other, feeling somewhat restless, he suddenly started to speak.
Actually, the thing I wanted to talk about is, well,
What is it? You seem so formal.
well, I've liked you for a long time, Sarah.
Slowly, he took out a small case from his pocket. He said to me as he opened a lid.
Will you marry me?
Inside was a very elegant ring, sparkling. Me, are you sure? I was so surprised that I blinked several times. I thought it might be a mistake or a joke, but it seemed genuine. Mike leaned in and said,
You seem so composed, yet so lively when we talk. I want to be with you in the future.
But I'm already 51.
Age doesn't matter. I don't choose people based on that.
Mike said earnestly, looking me in the eyes.
Marriage is about sharing a life. I want you to be the one with whom I share and live my life.
Mike,
But maybe I'm not right for you. I have a grown child and all.
that's not an issue at all. I feel the same about you. And so I accepted his proposal, and we decided to marry. That night, soaking in the bath, I stared at the ceiling. I never imagined that at this halfway point in my life, such things would happen. Life is full of surprises. While looking at my sagging arms, I wondered if I could even wear a wedding dress. As these thoughts dominated my mind for a few days, Mike came with joyful news. His son, John, had passed the entrance exam for a prestigious medical school. Wow, congratulations.
It's really great. He was so tense during the exams. Now we can finally relax a bit.
We should celebrate. How about ordering some pizza?
Well, there's a bit of a problem.
What happened?
The thing is, even though he passed, we can't afford the tuition fees for medical school. They are quite high.
That's terrible.
At least we need to figure out the entrance fee by the deadline.
Seeing him so troubled, I felt overwhelmed too. If nothing changed, John wouldn't be able to enroll in medical school.
If only I had been more responsible.
Mike clenched his fists, his frustration apparent.
He said he wanted to cure his mother's illness, and that's why he aimed for medical school.
I wasn't aware of the exact cost of medical education. Supporting the full amount would be difficult, but maybe I could manage the entrance fee. I can take care of the entrance fee.
Really?
Immediately, his face brightened. Yes, after all, we're family now, aren't we?
Thank you. Thanks to you, John can become a fine doctor.
Please don't cry. Let's support John together. Afterward, I inquired about the exact amount for the entrance fee and started arranging the payment. Actually, I had received some money from the city office for the apartment demolition and relocation. I checked my bank balance using the app and told Mike and John that I could cover the entrance fee.
Thank goodness. Thank you, Sarah. No, Mom.
It really is great.
Come on, let's celebrate with some pizza. Congratulations on passing, John.
That looks delicious. Let's eat.
We reached for the pizza one after another, quickly clearing the plate. Seeing them happily eating and saying delicious, delicious, I felt a surge of joy, as if I was watching my own son. Thinking about starting a new life with these wonderful people made me feel much more positive. I will do my best for this new family. That was the thought that came to me. The next day, I went to the bank after confirming the details for the payment of the entrance fee. The bank was quiet that day, and I was quickly called after taking a number. As I approached the counter, I caught the eye of a person at the back and nodded in greeting. It was Marvin Morris, the branch manager. When he noticed me, he stopped what he was doing and came over.
Sarah, long time no see. How have you been?
Fine, thanks to you. I appreciate all your help before. Marvin had assisted me with the inheritance of the apartment and other assets. We had known each other for about 20 years. I vividly remember how supportive he was when my mother passed away. My father used to say that Marvin was a sharp and reliable person.
What brings you here today? Huh?
I showed him my bank book and the transfer form. I've just recently decided to get married. I'm here to transfer the entrance fee for my fiancé's son.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I thought he would say that, but he didn't. Instead, his expression clouded slightly, and he looked at the transfer form and then at me with a hint of skepticism.
May we talk a bit about this in private?
Both the teller and I, with question marks hovering over our heads, followed Marvin. He led us to a small room at the back of the bank, the same place I had visited for inheritance consultations. Marvin stared intently at the transfer form and then asked me a question.
This is for medical school, right? The son intends to become a doctor?
Yes, that's what I've been told.
If you don't mind, could you tell me how you came to decide to marry this person?
Taken aback, I decided to tell the truth. After losing my mother, I began talking more with Mike, one of the residents I manage. He raised his only son while caring for his wife with a serious illness. His wife had passed away a few years ago, and now it's just him and his son living together. He proposed, saying he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. Then, right after that, John's entrance fee issue came up. I felt motivated to work hard for my new family.
That's truly wonderful. But this Mike person.
Oh my goodness, I've been calling him Mike. I mean, Mr. Scott.
Mike Scott.
Marvin repeated the name softly, then tapped his fingers on the desk as if pondering. With a rhythmic tap, 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 the sound filled the room. In just a few seconds, he stopped tapping and said,
May I keep this transfer form?
But why?
Just leave this matter to me.
He said with a reassuring smile, standing up. After opening the door to the small room, he said, please. And I left the bank, still confused. On my way home, I felt as if I had been bamboozled, reflecting on Marvin's actions. He had a slightly complex expression when he heard Mike's name. Why was that? Yet, he is a trustworthy person. He had asked me to trust him, and there had never been a time when he wasn't reliable. There's still time before the deadline, so it should be fine. I decided to leave everything in Marvin's hands. That evening, I showed Mike and his son the suit I had prepared for the ceremony. It was a neat, two-piece white suit. What do you both think? But their reaction was cold.
Did you buy it?
Seriously, you're coming to the ceremony?
Mike frowned, and John looked visibly displeased. I couldn't understand why. What? Is it not okay?
Think about it. You're just a fake parent.
My heart thumped heavily at those words. Being called a fake felt like a deep thorn was thrust into my heart.
Yeah, Sarah, a fake parent shouldn't come to the ceremony.
A fake parent shouldn't come to the ceremony.
No words came out of me. Why did I have to hear such cruel words? Just as everything seemed to go white before my eyes, Mike let out a deep sigh.
Let's just tell the truth.
The truth.
Why do you think we were so nice to you?
For the money.
It's for my tuition and fees.
No, that can't be.
There's no other benefit to marrying a plain woman like you.
What do you mean? Was it all an act?
Yes, it was. It took a long time to get close to you and arrange the marriage.
I would have preferred a younger and prettier mother.
You're the apartment manager and your parents just died. We thought you had a lot of inheritance.
I wanted you to pay for all the tuition fees. What a disappointment.
I can't believe you only agreed to pay the entrance fee.
That's too much. There's a limit to everything.
So, that's enough. Let's send this family charade.
This isn't some drama, so let's stop pretending to be nice.
They laughed heartily. Stunned, I stood there, not understanding what was so funny. Overwhelmed with disappointment, I couldn't muster a response. The white suit seemed like a testament to my own foolish excitement. Who could have predicted that the family I chose to love would turn on me so easily? It was too sad to be summed up in just a few words. Their laughter echoed in my ears, and I covered them, wishing not to hear. From that day on, they continued to ignore me, treating me as if I were invisible, even when I was right beside them. I grew tired of being treated like I didn't exist. I grew tired of living like that. Thinking about the future, I was so filled with anxiety and worry that I couldn't even sit still at night. Days of sleeplessness continued, and before I knew it, the day of the entrance ceremony had arrived. On that day, I didn't go to the entrance ceremony and left the suit in my room as I went out. I wandered through the streets, regretting my naive actions up until that point. Why did I fall for their deceit so easily? It was my fault for not being more skeptical. I wondered how I should deal with those two in the future. That was all I could think about. Then suddenly, I felt a tap on my shoulder and heard my name called. Turning around, I saw Marvin smiling at me.
I saw you by chance. What's going on?
I couldn't possibly confess that I had been deceived by my fiancé and his son. So I awkwardly averted my eyes. Just then, my smartphone rang. The caller was Mike. "Excuse me, I need to take this call," I told Marvin and pressed the answer button. Mike was furious, yelling as if on fire.
What the hell is this, you liar?
"Excuse me."
At the registration desk, they said his enrollment is canceled because the entrance fee of 2 million yen hasn't been paid.
That can't be right.
Explain this.
On the phone, the two were shouting. Indeed, I had gone to the bank that day and left the transfer form with Marvin. As I stood there bewildered, Marvin reached out to me.
Let me explain.
He took the smartphone from my hand. put it on speaker, and began to speak.
Mike Scott. Hello. I'm Marvin Morris, a banker from around here.
What?
You caused a commotion in another town before, embezzling company funds and facing charges.
Marvin stated this calmly and clearly.
What are you talking about?
You fled here from your hometown. I see. It was quite the surprise for me.
Hey, don't talk nonsense about my father.
It would be better if it were nonsense. But I remember it well. It was quite the scandal.
Stop it.
After all, it was an embezzlement case that involved our bank due to business dealings with that company. It's hard to forget.
The smile vanished from Marvin's face. Instead, he had a very stern expression, choosing his words as if recalling the past.
I remember your name. When Sarah mentioned you, I couldn't help but be suspicious.
What, Sarah, what have you said?
I heard you got married. Quick action on your part to remarry right after a divorce.
Divorce? You said she was dead. Was that a lie too?
She wasn't terminally ill, and her death was a lie too. You were told to divorce because of that scandal.
Shut up. Just transfer the entrance fee.
You probably approached kind-hearted Sarah, pretending to be a man in distress to arrange some money, right?
Shut up. Hey, Sarah. Don't listen to him. He's lying.
No, Mike. It's you who's lying. The day I went to the bank, I realized I had forgotten something on my way home and returned to the bank. That's when I ran into Marvin. He expressed concern about something regarding Mike and asked me to wait a bit before proceeding with the transfer. Trusting Marvin and knowing there was time until the payment deadline, I left the money in the account. By mentioning my bank visit, they mistakenly assumed I had transferred the entrance fee. But I never said I had done it. That night, after showing the suit, I discovered their true nature and intentions. Then I understood the true intention behind Marvin's request to wait with the transfer. I was on my way to the bank to confirm it today. Meeting him in the middle of the city was unexpected, but everything made sense after hearing the whole story. I kept asking you two to talk to me.
What's this all of a sudden?
But you both ignored me, so you didn't know I hadn't transferred the money. Silence fell on the other end of the phone. Faced with the truth from both Marvin and me, they were left speechless. Seconds later, the call ended abruptly, leaving only the sound of the bustling street around me. Soon after, Mike and I quickly proceeded with the divorce. He probably decided to cut ties after realizing everything was exposed, including my financial situation. I never thought the laughing figure of him was just an illusion. He and John left my apartment and this town as if fleeing. John had a history of misconduct in high school, causing frequent troubles. But his academic performance was good, so it seems the teachers overlooked it. I looked pensively at the room they had vacated, recalling such tidbits of information. Can such things really happen? It's like something out of a drama or movie, a story where it's hard to tell what's true and what's not. Yet, John had the capability to pass the entrance exam for a challenging medical school. I regretted that his intellect couldn't be used for something better. No more marriage for me. A few years later, my apartment was rebuilt in a different location. Moreover, the new location was just a few minutes' walk from the original site. On the day I posted the notice on the apartment, I also consulted the city office about the relocation expenses. During that time, due to an unexpected discovery, a mistake was found in the construction blueprints of the development project. As a result, the development area was reassessed, and it was decided that the apartment could remain in place with just a slight adjustment to its location. This news surprised and delighted both me and the residents. Although the reconstruction took some time, it was completed sooner than expected. Taking this opportunity, the plumbing and other facilities were completely updated. But will the residents choose to stay? As I observed and thought about this, it seemed that they were indeed planning to stay.
Sorry to trouble you, but we'll be staying a bit longer.
She, who had promised to visit the grave with me to mourn my mother's death, said this with a smile. Now we visit the grave together once or twice a year, and have meals together, maintaining a close friendship. All the residents moved to the new apartment, and the relocation went smoothly. The development project progressed, changing not just the apartment, but also the surrounding atmosphere. With the new road constructed, delivery drivers are happy about the easier access. Going to the nearby supermarket has also become easier due to the wider roads. It felt as though the atmosphere had brightened a bit. The interactions with the apartment residents remained unchanged. Everyone remains friendly and pleasant as always. Life is really unpredictable. My quiet murmur dissolved into the clear blue sky,